Welcome to the Charlie Newhart Show. This is Charlie Newhart. Like and subscribe if you like real content. If not, just get off. Okay, I don't care. I'm doing it for the real. Just get off. Yeah, just
get off.
Just get off the channel. If you don't want to
just get off the channel.
Just get off if you don't want it. How are you today?
I'm everything copacetic.
Copacetic?
Yeah, copacetic.
All right. Everything is copacetic. So let me ask you a question. We've had some interesting conversations over the last couple of days.
We have.
And one of the things I was talking about on the previous show is the healing and self-work that a lot of people are not willing to do.
Absolutely.
I got this. What irritates me personally is people who are very externally driven. They want to control their environments and everything. I mean, you kind of controlling. You a lot of controlling, but you also control yourself, so you got good balance. Like you're psycho-controlling, but
I prefer to use a euphemism and say,
What?
I'm organized and I'm a great facilitator.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So we'll say that you're organized and you're a facilitator in a very psycho-controlling way, but you also control yourself. You're very well accomplished. Blah blah blah. We'll get into that later. I ain't gonna tell everybody who you are just yet, but. Right. You are you also take time to control yourself. What bothers me sometimes when people are very externally driven to control their environments, and they don't take that same energy to use for themselves. I feel like we got that energy to use to control ourselves, to accomplish certain things, to stop certain things. Like a lot of people clown me sometimes for having my flip phone, but it's like I have to control myself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just certain things that I just can't access myself to because I know what my proclivities and generational iniquities are. But my point is, the people who don't do the self-work, the people who are externally driven and not internally driven, how do you realize or how do you see when you get into a relationship, how do you understand that that's the type of person like, oh, this is somebody that's externally driven. This is somebody who don't control themselves. Why isn't it revealed until you're already in love with the person 3-4 months down the road, 2 months down the road? You think you can see it immediately now? Or is this something that's like, damn, man, I'm already in it. Now I see I'm with somebody who's externally driven who don't want to do the self-work. What's the process now?
So once you've observed, like, let's say, for instance, a narcissist, which I think is an overused term, by the way, but because that's kind of a mainstream. Yeah. Just like bipolar and these things are, overused. But narcissism I think it's kind of an epidemic right now. People are and so when you look at somebody with like a narcissistic personality disorder, they are externally driven. But what the upside of having dealt with some of these people is that now you develop a sense. It's just like faith. It's a muscle. So you develop this sense of being able to discern and see red flags much quicker. So the upside of having been exposed to involved with these types of people is that you're able now to see those things. Hindsight is 20/20, but now when it crosses your path again, you're able to see, what's the real and the red flags and things to kind of steer clear of.
You think you were taught how to pick?
That's I didn't expect you to ask me that. I
I
absolutely wasn't. And I've written a few spoken word pieces about this, interesting enough. But I was not taught how to pick. And I don't think many, the fatherless child for both males and females is truly an epidemic. So a little girl dates her father first.
Dude,
so the most important, a father is important to males and females, but we always think like a little boy needs their daddy. And we don't realize the value of, because, as concerning myself, my brother struggled more when we were young, and he was selling crack at 12 and just robbing, doing all sorts of flagrant, criminal type, activities. And he had a lot of rage and anger, and he was just a menace pretty much. It was really horrible kind of growing up with him. It was a tumultuous time. However, in his adult life, he's fared better than myself concerning relationally. Why? Because my mother was really amazing. She struggled and was a single mother, but she was amazing. So in his adult life, then he's better. You know?
Why? Well, how
and
so?
It's
that's interesting.
Well, compared to myself, where there's abandonment issues. I had a father who was absent, but when he was there, he was emotionally absent. In the second grade, I can still remember him saying, the circle will never be broken. And so I suppressed all those abandonment issues. I had a mother who was trying her best but couldn't be there completely because she was floundering, and I grew up in poverty. She was just trying to make it. She did the best she could. She's amazing. She did the very best she could. But because of I didn't have a teacher, an uncle, a male, any male who stepped up to the plate to teach me how to, because here's the thing, kids don't do what you say, they do what you do.
Right.
And so we can say, my mother could, and she didn't though. I don't know that, I think she was concerned about other things. But let's say I had a mother who said, make sure that you respect yourself and that, you choose correctly with a man. And she ran me through all this, how to be treated. That's all well and good. And I think that can be compounded or be an add-on to how you raise your children. But kids are ultimately going to do what you do. My mother never had to say, go to college, because I watched her struggle through college, get her master's degree, come up from out of poverty. Now she owns two really, exorbitantly, great places on the water, oceanfront and lakefront.
Shout out to Mom.
But and I watched her get to that. But that was when I was really an adult before she got to that. We were on foot. I mean, and this is a time when it wasn't bridge card.
You had to go to the store with the stamps?
Correct.
You go get them. Did your mama give you the stamps for you to go?
She did sometimes, and if we were out, let's say at whatever store, I would be looking at my whole focus, because when you're a kid,
right,
everything is more highlighted, and so it embarrasses. We had a car you could see to the bottom.
Y'all had a Flintstone? Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. And when we did have a car, and then. My brother and I would ask her to drop us off at the corner. The muffler's dragging and loud, and it's just this exorbitantly embarrassing, car. Now I would say kick right and not and could care less.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, but part of my coming up, I had to raise my hand for free lunch, and I would say to myself, what am I going to do today? How do I get out of anybody seeing me in line for free lunch?
Yeah.
Yeah. And our house was the dilapidated house, and we were the cheese, which, by the way, the government cheese makes the best grilled cheese. There's some upside to that, but it was pretty, and it was humiliating. It wasn't I didn't live in the context where you're wearing the bridge card T-shirt, and I taught school for 20 plus years, and the kids there all had free lunch. So it was kind of a non-issue because everybody was in the right. But when you just have a handful of kids around, because
I remember them days. I was born in 77. I remember 80s, them kids was the free lunch. I'm like, what's
right, so it's 73, and even my parents getting divorced, believe it or not, kids didn't want, and this is not this way now because divorce has become another epidemic, but in my time, when I was coming up, they didn't want you to play. They thought you were like a bad influence on,
Oh, they wouldn't intermingle.
And then when you add to that, I was my brother, because he was enraged, I was dealing with physical and emotional abuse to the extreme. I dealt with sexual abuse from a half-brother who then got sent away, at the age of 3.
Yeah.
So my life story was really an abandonment issues with my father, but for the grace of God, an individual having experienced those things would be likely to be on a, snorting
Facts.
coke on a stripper pole.
Facts.
And because of God,
God helped you, and He changed you. And I'm a firm believer about how trauma changes you. So when you deal with poverty, a lot of people don't even realize this, but poverty is traumatic.
Let me interject and say this. All of those experiences, as painful and hurtful and humiliating and just going through that, just the feeling of the loneliness, the feeling different, the embarrassment, the humiliation, all of those things actually gave me a platform from which to have compassion and empathy for the students I taught. I mean, there's kids I was able to see. I would have them write their journals, and I'd be praying, and I just could discern through the room, and I would see, and they would, years later, they'd say, "You were the only one who saw it. How did you know?" How did I know? Because it's like blood in the water. I could sniff it out.
Because you saw it.
I always can connect with people who've experienced, sexual abuse. And by the way, something people don't talk about often is whenever someone's been sexually abused, usually it happens more than once in some form or fashion because it's like blood in the water.
Yeah. Once it's done to you, then it's seen.
What happens is you become a subconscious. And this relates relationally too, because as soon as you start to get the healing, you made a comment to me when we were talking recently. Do you remember what you said? You said something to the extent of, what was it, regarding a woman and toxic women. And I said, that will change when you're fully healed.
Oh, I said crazy women got the best vagina.
But you said something else before that. There was something else the day before that when we were engaging in discourse.
I don't know.
But and even to that, the when you will stop being attracted to and attracting that once you really change your energy, because it's more than just like
I don't know if I agree. I feel like you can always attract the familiar, but you attract it, but just because you attract it, it's like, nah, I don't want it now. Like you don't engage in the back and forth no more because now you hear
less of. But you're right, especially if you're a person with appeal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not really.
I'm
not really into six packs and striking blue eyes or anything.
I'm a person with appeal. Yeah, I already know. I'm too much. I already know. You like dudes that's 5'3" and weird that you can control. You know what I'm saying? So that'll never be me. You ain't controlling me. I'm the one telling you.
Unfortunately, never able to control that.
Yeah. Listen, I'm the one that's going to tell you, sit your ass down and shut up.
Right.
So yeah, that's why we such good friends, because it's like, look, you ain't controlling me.
Right.
You ain't telling me what to do. Right. But I want to ask you.
Well, let me interject and say this.
No. I want to ask you a question first before you do that. I want to ask you about your healing journey, because you mentioned some pieces, some stuff that I haven't even heard, and I've known you for years. But your healing, you've been through all of that, and now you can see it on other people. But what was your turning point on you being healed from those things? Like, when did you start, like, man, let me do the self-work to get healed? When did that start, and what did you do?
I think, like forgiveness, healing is a process. When you go to forgive, you can feel like, oh, I'm good now. And then something will trigger it, and you'll be like, I'm going to beat this down into 6 feet further into the grave.
Yeah.
And so it's a process. I'm really at a place where I'm at peace finally, but it took me many, many years to get there. Mm-hmm. And I think I had to, we can learn things through other people, or we can learn it the hard way ourselves, or we can learn through other people's mistakes. Some people, and I was one of them, that, I thought I had it, and I would end up. So subconsciously what we do is we attract the thing that we're used to, and like you said, that we're familiar with, and we're trying to rewrite the past. So if I find someone that's familiar to my father subconsciously, right?
Okay.
Who's not validating me, who's absent, who's,
your dad was short?
Passive aggressive. No, he was actually really tall. Oh, okay. 6'4". He was tennis great. I'm supposed to be Serena, according to Jackson.
Was he weird looking? Or?
A little bit. He was a little weird looking, actually.
Go ahead.
God, I'm laughing at my pain, right?
I'm crying.
So,
yeah.
So, he was an absent emotionally. He was passive aggressive. He was ironically a believer, which kind of put a negative, like a pall over my faith for a little while. I've always been a believer. I say I came out of the womb. I'm somebody that never really had, and I'm grateful for this. I don't have that experience where people find God, because I have this rare I realize it's rare now through talking to so many people. I never really realized the rarity of it.
Right.
I always just thought, well, it's, I never really like contemplated it, but over time, I've realized that I've been very, very blessed to never have had to. I've never had to find God per se. I just always, when I was 2 and 3, my mother would write poem. I joke and say I came out of the womb a poet, because she would write down things that I would say before I could read or write, and I would say things like tapping these golden feet on this golden street, having no knowledge of things that turned out later I realized are scriptures. And even having little bits of memory. I saw angels and demons at a very young age. I didn't realize I was going to disclose this today, but we're on a
we're here. We're on a nice track.
We're on a transparent and impromptu track right here.
So keep it going.
This is not contrived. We're just going with it.
Yeah, we're going with the flow, even though you do have a flashcard over there with some bullet points.
I absolutely do not.
You do. It's right there on the counter, and I gave it to you beforehand.
Charlie, let me just disclose to the audience, because Charlie likes to embellish and fabricate.
Man, whatever, dog.
But here's the crazy part. I am a spoken word artist, and I pride myself in never coming to a microphone with notes, papers, a phone.
You just let it happen, huh?
I do. Well, I memorize things and all that, but I like to perform and be able to slow down and pick up and interject with certain thoughts if I so see it in the moment. But yeah, I don't. I used to be a little bit of a snob with that, and then I got to the dance community, because through some of the trauma in school and my life, I used dance as a cathartic thing. And I, in my late 40s, learned 11 genres of dance in the city of Detroit, which I absolutely love. I'm actually going to dance today when we leave.
Yeah, shout out to you.
Bop and chop.
JoJo Dancer. JoJo Dancer. So look, this has been my theory, because I have, out of my baby mamas, I married some of them, right? All of them never had a relationship with their father, or had a very horrible relationship with their father. Every last one of them. Either he was on drugs, or they didn't have a relationship with him. And I realized that I was picking these women that were like almost like the path of least resistance. It was just kind of like broken. I was broken because I had cancer. I had all these different things growing up, these traumas. So it was like two broken people trying to be whole. So I realized I was attracting these broken women, and I was just like, I wasn't really taught how to pick. So now that I've done the self-work to heal, now that I have just this relationship with God, now it's like I run people through 3 things: observation, revelation, recommendation.
Let me ask you this: what was your relationship with your mother?
I had a really great I'm closer to my dad.
Yeah,
but I had a great relationship with my mom.
That doesn't surprise me. So what we usually do is, and when we're conscious of this, we can change it, because there's only one thing worse than a man with a problem or a woman, and that's someone who doesn't know they have a problem. You only can change, and that's where the enemy, his biggest ploy, or his biggest way of getting people is through deception. His only real power is deception.
Is deception, right? So let me finish.
We're deceived into believing. But what I was going to say is, so what we do is we either we do one end of the spectrum or the other.
Right.
So we're either going to go to something that we absolutely have been ingrained in, or we're going to go and seek the complete opposite.
Right.
What happens when we go for the familiar is subconsciously we're rewriting the past. So on a subconscious level, if I can get this man who's familiar to my father without me even being realized, because it's all subconscious, who has these qualities of my father, of the absenteeism, the passive aggressive, the the emotional abuse, that type of thing. When I am now connecting with someone who's familiar to that, if I can change them, this is all subconscious, remember, then I've somehow righted the past.
Do you feel that when you do that, it's almost like you getting your power back too?
I think it's a false sense of empowerment, just like it is when people, sell drugs or they're stripping or whatever. It's a sense. It's the enemy's deception. I was tempted. I mean, this is me being extremely transparent here, but I was tempted in my early 20s to go do that.
Yeah.
Because I thought, well, I can get this money. This is at the time before people were doing all the fake. So I would get, in Jackson, they were calling me the body. I had all this attention.
You didn't go shake for a little while. You didn't.
I did not, and I'm just only for and no judgment towards people who've gone down that path, but because God's.
I know some quality shakers. I know some quality shakers who have done an amazing job, and they're good people. So if you're a quality shaker out there, I just want you to know that God loves you still. You know what I'm saying? So you didn't shake. You thought about it, you didn't.
I thought about it, and it was a false. I was blessed to be enlightened, and to have God really just hand me that enlightenment. I don't even think I asked for it. He just gave me that grace where I realized that this is something that, because we think that people are doing it for the money. It's just like if someone cuts or they're eating, we just look at it like they just want to eat. Or this person has an eating disorder. They just want to, there's all of these subconscious reasons. If you peel the layers back and you don't just look at something simply. I had students who cut, and people would say, oh, the other students, oh, they're a freak, they're a weirdo, not understanding that this person is legitimizing their pain, their emotional pain through physical pain, and it takes the relief, or if someone's stuffing their feelings, we just think, oh, that fatty, why can't they quit slinging donuts like frisbees, or the porn.
So they use that term. They'll say fatty. Because I've never. I don't know if they use it, or would they say retarded or fatty?
You're gonna be shadow banned here. Like, we're not supposed to say.
You said fatty. I was just wondering what you meant when you said fatty. Look at that fatty eating donuts. That's what you just.
Right. And so if we're looking at things on a surface level without scratching beneath the surface and looking at the psychology behind it and the layers behind why people do what they do, and I don't mean to extend people too much grace when they do horrific things, but I think it's always valuable to look at where someone can, when you see a homeless person, I mean, the average American household is a paycheck or two away from homelessness.
Yeah.
And so we've got to look at that our path. We're only a decision or two away from our path being that of the person we may judge.
True, but let me go back to a question, because I'll say what my journey was, and I want to go back to this for you to answer it, because there's people, when you come out of something, there's thousands, maybe millions of people who are willing to raise their hand and say, dang, she or he is telling my story too. I'm going through that, or I've been through that. Mm-hmm. So for me, when I had I kept picking the same woman over and over again with a different name. Yeah. And finally, when I'm in this situation where I was just so broken, I got into a relationship with somebody who lied about their mental health. Come to find out they had all these mental health issues. They lied about.
I was in a relationship with someone who lied about their faith.
Lied
about every single position, pretty much.
Just lied about all these situations, and then
important things.
Right, important things that you really need to know, and they lied about it. And here I am in this situation, and I'm broken, and I'm hurt.
By the way, I just want to point this out, because I think this is such a misconception. I'm just thinking about this now. When you're a person who has any level of appeal, you're going to attract. Like
facts.
You pinpointed this a little bit earlier. When you get your healing, you'll attract less of those, fewer of those.
Yeah.
However,
you have more discernment.
Correct. The difference is now you're not going to respond.
Facts.
And you're going to see it when it's coming, and you're going to go, no thanks. But when you are a person, people always think, well, you must have something, you attract all these. No, people who are appealing and have things that someone wants, whether it's looks, money.
By appealing, you mean I'm handsome. Okay, I understand that. Go ahead.
You're not really my type.
I'm handsome. I'm
striking blue eyes,
but I'm a beautiful man. So you're saying that
nice
when I'm a beautiful man that dresses well and that's tall then I attract a certain type of person. And also, you attract a certain. I understand. I just want to get the undertone of what you're saying. The surface level is cool. I appreciate you for calling me appealing, because that I am appealing and I attract a certain.
But then
I'm an amazing human being and a beautiful man. That I attract certain types of people. But you're right. You attract all of this. So that's what I was saying earlier.
You're going to attract a lot of different types of people from A to Z. You're going to attract the downtrodden person. You're going to attract successful people. Your job after you've done the healing is now you know better. We've all heard of the cliche, when you know better.
Remember that homeless dude? Y'all look like movie stars.
He sure did. And he swore we were.
Y'all gonna be ghetto. Y'all movie stars. Give me $3. I see y'all.
We were on the Detroit River. This was like what, 4 years? Was it before COVID? No,
it was a while ago.
Had COVID hit? I'm trying to remember.
It was right at the beginning.
It was.
Y'all supposed to be movie stars.
He literally said.
Did he start dancing too?
Actually, it was a compliment, because there were quite a few people who were like, "Who are you guys on TV?" You know,
who are y'all? They was really looking at me like, that guy has been on TV forever. Who's that Mexican with him, man? I mean, somebody, who's that Puerto Rican? Who's that Mexican with him, man? Is she about to make him tacos? I don't think she Mexican. What if? But here's my point. So what I learned through that brokenness, that last broken situation I was in, I was like beating myself up. I'm too old. I'm da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, man, okay, so got back in therapy, start spending time in God's word. And then I was like, I started remembering what my old mentor, pastor, told me. He said, you invite people into your life with 3 things: observation, revelation, recommendation. Before you bring somebody close, you observe them for a while.
And you have to vet them.
That's observation. Revelation, you got to pray and talk to God about this person.
You absolutely do.
And then recommendation, let me talk to some people around JoJo and see what she on.
New York girl, here in LA.
The hell you doing out here?
Excuse me.
You over here trying to gentrify my neighborhood, ain't you?
You are step off, bro.
Step off.
Seriously.
You in my neighborhood.
What?
You got a Backstreet Boys CD on the front seat of your car right now.
God, you smell. Oh my God, take a shower.
I'm so tired of Starbucks on top of Starbucks. You need to leave. Get out of my neighborhood. Leave. You got a fake booty.
I swear to God, that's so disgusting. You would never see that in New York. Wait. Oh my God, my phone. Shit, my phone. Where did my phone go? Wait, back off.
I come in peace, all right? I think you dropped it.
Oh, my phone. Oh my God. Oh, thank you so much.
I'm a good person, and I like white people sometimes.
Okay, yeah.
Even though y'all don't add seasoning to your food and you smell like mayonnaise.
Okay. Wow, thank you. You could have taken that. I appreciate
Could
that.
have.
I forgive you.
Should have, but I didn't.
I forgive you.
I love America.
Okay. Oh, I'm so happy to have my phone back. Okay, I gotta text Sarah. Wait. Oh my God. Oh, he did not take a picture of his and put it on my phone. Oh my God. Oh my God, that's so gross. Oh.
So porn addiction. So what were you doing? How did you get out of porn addiction? What did you do specifically to stop beating off the porn? When you were sitting on candles, looking at bukkake. I just used your phone earlier, and the first thing on your phone was Asian Ass Blaster 6000.
I've been blessed never to have a porn addiction. However, someone I was really in love with had a porn addiction.
You walked in on him with his pants at his ankles at the computer?
No. He actually disclosed it to me at certain points. There were some revealing things that I just could discern that were there, and then he was transparent.
Not enough cum?
But Listen, I'm not going to get into the details, but I will say this. Anytime you know, whatever you focus on increases what you starve.
Facts.
And so anytime you want to stop doing something, you want to input, replace it.
That's a good point. You can't just kill one thing and think that you can be done with it.
For anyone, like, porn addiction is such a really hindersome thing. It really destroys relationships.
I did it for years.
On so many levels. So it destroys getting into good relationships, and it destroys whatever relationship you're in at that time. And for so many reasons, what I wanted to say really quickly is that if you're going to stop something like that, you oftentimes, and I think your flip phone thing, you did whatever you had to do.
Yeah.
If you're an alcoholic, you can't be in a home where your spouse is going, well, I still, I'm not the alcoholic and I want to drink. Like, it's not going to work. You have to completely remove those things and the things that are temptations to you. Even the little foxes, like, if you have a social media and these things are always popping up, then you might need to, unless you're an influencer and it's going to hurt you financially, then, there's other, like with you did the flip phone avenue. But for many people, you really just need to erase and restart, because your algorithm has been it's been trained to garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
If you're eating trash, if you're listening to trash, you're going to produce trash.
Yeah.
So you can't, in other words, you can't expect to have, a great box, but you're eating McDonald's. You're gonna have a McDonald's vagina if you're eating McDonald's.
So what's that like? What I mean, I'm not saying you know what it's like, but if a woman is eating trash and she has a trash vagina, are you stating that it may or may not have a certain type of smell or look if it's a McDonald's box?
I don't know.
Yeah. If you got,
I'm being interviewed by a comedian who has to, like.
If you got a McDonald's box, that's got to be an amazing smell. Or look.
I don't think that it smells good like McDonald's. I think it's a rancid,
I've smelled some horrid boxes where I'm like, what? I'm all set.
Well, nowadays we get this. You hear so much of, there are no good men out here, and there are no good men. But I really feel for men nowadays. Men are the picking is very slim. Men.
Oh, I agree.
Nowadays you have. They're not cooking. Their dishes are full of, when men say, oh, you like, all these women like, raggedy men, or they're attracted to toxic men. And men are doing the same. They will say out of their mouth that they want a good woman, but they'll pick. And the picking, to be fair, is very slim. You got women out here talking about being boss bees and
the independent game
and city girls and
you think city girls and the Cardi B ruined the culture?
The twerkettes and all that. I think that women ruin things. Feminism and women right now are more of a detriment than men, because in society we've always looked to women. Women have always been the moral compass.
Yeah.
They've always been the ones to kind of straighten up the man, but now you've got these women acting like men. They're not.
Why do you think there's so much masculine energy in some of these women now?
Well, let me just preface by saying this: there's so many. They're not pair bonding. So if a woman is sleeping, even scientifically, each person that you're sleeping with past, I think, like 3 or 4, it goes down 20%. Your ability to pair bond is now dissipating. So it's low, and what I mean by pair bonding is creating that soul tie, which can be negative with the wrong person, but the thing that God created us to have. When the two shall become one. When you go to sleep with someone, it's a 90% spiritual thing and maybe 10 to 20%, physical. People don't realize that. So when you're sleeping with someone, this is why you take on some of the demons and things.
Yeah.
And, they're suffering through depression. I was with someone who I believed I was in love with, and I noticed, and this is why I've made the decision in this past
that he
year
wasn't
to
as
be
tall
celibate.
as he said he was. I'm messing with you. Go ahead.
That and I began to take on some attributes, whatever demons or struggles that they're dealing with are now your spirit, because see, anytime you're listening to music or you're having sex, those are things where your spirit is really opening up.
Yeah.
And by the way, on the porn tip, your spirit is opening, you're relaxed. Your spirit sexual sin is really rampant right now. That's the way the devil's really wreaking havoc currently.
Absolutely.
More than ever.
I think it's the weed too. I think the weed is making people rainbow. I think that's
There's
part of
something,
it. It's something making us a lot more sweet people. It's women that are more into chewing on each other. It's more men that are interested in other men's backsides.
Yeah.
And I think it's the weed. I think it's the
There's
synthetic
something.
weed
I
that's
don't
making
know if
people
it's
sweet.
Or the GMOs or the
And even on the masculine tip, I had a woman tell me one time, she was like, "Yeah, I just want to tell you right off the top, I don't cook." I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I don't." Let me finish. I said, "Oh," she was like, I don't cook." I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I don't protect."
Oh.
Right,
Yeah.
Get your ass down there and see what that noise is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay in bed. If you don't want to do your part, your feminine part, or as a woman or whatever the case may be, you're not saying you don't know how. You saying you don't.
And that is where I have a problem. I started to mention how the women, and it's the men too, but men gets a really bad rap where, you hear more often, "Oh, there are no good men out here. All the men are," and that, is in part true. However, the women are, it's a mess.
I want to get into
they're
that.
Out here twerking. They can't fry an egg. They
I don't mind a twerk every now and then, though. A nice, if you can cook and twerk.
But you know what I mean? You can't ballroom. You can't. Your sink is full of dishes. You don't have the attributes of a traditional woman. And so what's happened though? Let me balance that with saying, women also have become more masculine out of necessity.
Facts.
So
I was going to say that.
For instance, people will tend to think that I'm overly they'll think they have this idea that I don't need a man or that I'm independent. And I need a man as much as any person does or any woman does. Any woman.
Right.
Nowadays, any person.
You're going
right?
to say person. What do you identify as? Where's your partner?
Right.
I, thee, them, hey.
Right.
She, yeah, I feel you.
But I need a man as any woman does. I think what's happened is women have, out of necessity, become independent. And so really everything comes down to reciprocity. You have to, the gender roles can change, in some ways, but then you have to, the side to balance your statement is, regarding the woman that said, I don't cook, women are also expected nowadays to cook, clean, bring home the bacon, work a 9 to 5, or work a full-time job, take care of the kids, be a rock star in the bedroom, look like a model.
Yeah.
And
so social media has changed that a lot.
And so what's happened is we're all wanting something that we want to aspire to be the person that we want to attract. So if you have a Santa Claus stomach, then you shouldn't be asking for a woman to be a model. Or
why not?
Or a woman shouldn't be saying, having their hand out, but they're unwilling to do any of the things that are within the feminine energy. So, but I, as a woman, have to be able to relax in my feminine energy, so that, and then I can let go of some of that masculinity. Society has really honed women into being more masculine. So out of necessity, and if there aren't men around, then women step up and take on those roles. And then sometimes we're in that role so thoroughly, and we're ensconced in it so deep that then when it's time to be feminine, we don't necessarily know how. And so,
my daughter was just here. She just had the same conversation.
What facilitates that is when a man allows you to, when they lead without a drag, when they are, and No,
go into detail what that looks like. What does that look like?
So when a man leads, as far as, a man, first of all, needs to be, you hear men say, well, this woman doesn't, she doesn't know how to be led. But you might be cheating. Maybe you're watching porn, which doesn't allow a woman to feel safe. So let me tell you.
Maybe you're a premature ejaculator.
So let me tell you what a man needs. A man needs to feel appreciated and respected. A woman needs to feel loved and safe. In the Word, no place in the Word does God require a woman to love the man.
It says to respect him.
It says, that's right.
Respect your
and it
husband,
says,
right.
men, love your wives. love your wives. And so we're just following that lead. You set the tone. As a man, you set the climate, you set the tone.
Right. Absolutely.
And so if for me to feel not have, a lot of, even to touch on the porn thing, when a man is looking at these, salacious, sex selling images and that are real over the top and pornographic, a woman will, unless they're, ingenuine and feigning being a down girl, around the way, like they're cool with all that, and they'll go to the street. The average woman doesn't. That's not a good thing. What it does is it attacks your sense of safety. So now in a woman, and remember what I said a few moments ago. What are the two things that women need? Woman needs to be safe, and they need to feel loved. Right. Men need to be appreciated, and they need to be respected. So you've got, you find some way to balance that, but ultimately we follow, as the man, you set the climate, you set the tone. And so for me, if I'm kind of getting fired up, because, I'm a little bit of a hot, I'm a little fiery. So if I'm fired up and a man says, baby, if they don't return that fire with fire, I literally soften down like butter. I'm not kidding you. It's like it's this amazing thing that happens. If a man can just say, baby, what's wrong?
Yeah. Then you
baby,
melt.
I love you. If they don't go, what are you? And they start just on the attack. Or if I've had a hard day, well, what did you do? If they're not on my team, because see, when you really go to be with someone, they're right even when they're wrong. Right. And so you're supporting them, and that person feels seen by you. I just think that what it really comes down to is reciprocity. When people come together, even in modern times like we're in now, with the gender roles kind of being skewed, if you can, each party should be gaining something. You should be better off. I really believe in the 80-20. But no one person is going to give you everything, and you're going to have a few bumps in the road, but generally speaking, this person is adding to your life. Right? So you're both contributing in some capacity. It's not one person doing everything. It's not a woman shouldn't just have their hand out, and a man needs to do this, and if they can't do that. And I also think that what's really hindered us is this whole looking for the next best thing, and the don't settle, which is a great concept that's been taken, that's been that's been really magnified in a dangerous way, where now we're nitpicking apart. Instead of being willing to work with people, we're nitpicking apart. And I'm not saying to, stay.
People are more focused on people than God. If I'm always staring at you, then I'm not looking up at God.
And let me get to that. So when you talk about leading, and when you talk about a woman that's going to, even as a woman, so what the scripture, a twofold cord is better than one, but a threefold cord is not easily broken.
Absolutely.
So God is in the center, a man is at one end, a woman is at the other end. A relationship we're already in a time where, the statistics on marriages and relationships lasting is like, embarrassing. So we absolutely have to have God. And when you talk about leadership, a man can't lead if he's not sold out to God. If God isn't his father, if God isn't the woman's father, how is she,
but it's a lot of people faking it too. They saying that God my father. They saying they believers, but they clearly not followers.
By your fruit you shall know them. And that's where discernment comes in, and that's where looking at red flags and vetting people. I think people are so quick to jump into the bedroom that they don't build the foundation of friendship.
Facts.
And they're not, and this is, why I'll be transparent here and say that I've chosen to be celibate. I'm going to do a, 5-part series on that, and why, because that's a whole nother very in-depth about creating soul ties and just, raising your
and how much time it takes to break them.
It takes an elaborate amount of time and struggle. I had a soul tie. The two individuals who I was in love with, I've really been in love, deeply twice in my life at this age, and
Who are you?
absolutely.
Who are you? First of all, I just remember that we haven't addressed who you are and your background, and you have all of this elaborate knowledge that you're sharing. Who are you? Who are you? What's your background? What do you own? Like, who are you?
You know,
Everybody asks me, who is her? Who is she? Who are you?
You know, I'm a teacher at heart, and I was formerly a teacher, but I think outside of that label, that's really the thing that God has not only gifted me with, but that I absolutely love to do. I love to impart knowledge, whether it's on nutrition or dogs, my 5 dogs.
Oh, my God.
I have a story about how I ended up with 5 dogs. I didn't make this choice,
and then
Charlie.
You lied about it. I was like, what is that sound? Is this a
so I
dog?
told
And I'm
Charlie,
hearing this sound in stereo. I'm like, that sounds like 60 dogs in your house. In unison.
So the funny thing about it is I didn't plan to have. So that's a story in itself.
And then I want you to return back to your bio, because I'm talking about major accomplishments, master's degrees, teaching, blah 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 blah. We're gonna get into that. I want to talk about who you are, but talk about your 6,000 dogs at your house.
Yeah. So the 5 dogs. The thing when I went to get how I ended up with 5 dogs.
Oh my God.
So how I ended up with 5 dogs, I had a dog he was almost 17, he passed. I was in love with the dog. And I was really, just full of grief. I ended up getting this other dog, Miles. I named him after Miles Davis. And he's my baby boy. So I got him. I already had Marisol, who I had right when my boy who passed was going to pass. So I then had these 2 dogs. My nephew, who I rarely saw, calls me up out of the blue, tells me his mother took this dog home. It's a Pomeranian and Chihuahua mix. And I'm like, I don't want another dog. 2 is my max number of dogs, and they have to be smaller.
So not 1 being the max, 2 is your max. Okay, cool.
1 was my max for a lot, but 2 became the max. I like them to have friends, and they're smaller and they're very manageable. So then I get this dog, and she's so sad. She's just exorbitantly sad. I mean, she's just like, it's just heartbreaking. She wouldn't eat for days. I said, I'll take her and I'll help her find, a home. I'll take that on. Well, as you can probably prognosticate, my best quality is my heart and my worst quality is my heart. So I end up saying, my mother tries to take the dog. She's like, I can't keep the dog. I just tell her on the phone, I'm taking her. So then I go to get the dog, and she hands me the dog in a little pink blanket that I'd given her, and you see like a little bit of blood, the dog's in heat. So me not being a dog breeder, I didn't realize. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? Separate them. In the interim of me trying to figure out what to do, they end up locking. I don't know, for the audience, if you've seen dogs lock, they lock I've never seen it before.
They start doing it.
They do it, but then they lock. And I'm like, oh my gosh, so I'm on YouTube. I'm looking things up. Like, what in the heck is? It
was a dog orgy.
It was horrid. And I was like, so what do I do? So then I'm looking things up. They're only like 6-7 months old at this time, both of them. Okay. And so I am frantic, looking at like, oh my gosh, what, I'm full of trepidation. Like, I cannot have another dog. What am I going to do? These dogs are known to have like, I think it's 5 to 12 or something on average.
God, man.
So the dogs so I go on YouTube. I'm looking up all this information. They see the young sperm. Usually it's very rare for them to be pregnant at under a year. So when they breed them, so I'm like, I'm good. A couple weeks later, I'm sitting on my couch and I'm talking to my mother on the phone, and I'm kind of rubbing this little girl, and her name's Maya, and I feel movement, and I said, I can feel 2 dogs in here. And I say to the Lord, because God knows ahead of time what we're going to pray for sometimes.
Right,
and I thought, well, if she's already pregnant, so why am I praying this? But I prayed it anyway, because it was, even though it's kind of dorky to pray something that if it's already there, it's already there. And I said, if she's pregnant and this happens, just let her have 2 dogs. She ended up having 2 dogs.
And that's how
I was still going to give the 2 dogs away. I had a lady, the president of the union president, the former union president. She was going. Well, I'm good friends with. She was going to take the dogs. She ended up not for other reasons, family.
So you end up getting stuck with 5 dogs.
I didn't have the heart to let go.
All right, shout out to you, 5 dogs.
So let me just say this. So people would say, you can't have 5 dogs. My mother would say, good friends of mine, what are you going to do? No man is going to, you can't have 5 dogs. And for a split second, I thought to myself, who's going to want to be with me with 5 dogs? And then I thought, you know what? Last time I checked, I live by myself. I pay my own bills. I own my own home. And I can do what I dang well please. And then the other part is, the beautiful part for me is I'm okay with running around with no makeup a lot of times. I'm okay if somebody sees me with a mask, I might, like a clay mask or, just less than perfect. I allow for that transparency because I really feel like my person is going to find.
He gonna love you and your 10 dogs.
My 5 dogs.
He gonna love you and your 5 dogs.
And I will never. I understand that when I'm to marry, I'm not gonna. It's not fair to. I would never require nor even want, because it's intimate time with your person, to have 5 dogs sleeping with my husband and I.
Yeah.
So
your dogs kiss you in the mouth?
So they attempt to, but no, I'm not.
You
one
don't.
of
You,
those.
I was
I don't,
gonna say
I
you
don't
one of them.
allow them to slobber all over my mouth. No.
It's disgusting.
No.
Okay, who
and
are
I
you?
don't dress them up and just.
You got some outfits for them. Don't
just
front.
here and there. Like, once or twice a year, I'm not bringing them in the car.
I'm
I don't want hair in the
saying.
car. People don't even know I have dogs because, like, when I cut, like, if you hug, you don't have. We hugged when I saw. I hadn't seen you in a few years.
Ain't no
there's
dog
no
hair
dog
on me.
hair,
You don't
nothing.
smell like dog milk.
No,
So,
my house doesn't. Yeah, I'm pretty. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's your dog story.
Am
Whatever.
I'm a
Who are
teacher.
you?
I'm a teacher. I'm a retired teacher. I taught for 20 plus years in the Jackson Public School system.
Okay.
English, psychology, cooking. I love to
for
cook.
real?
I actually taught cooking. I don't know.
Good. So you'd never tell a man, I don't cook.
Never would I tell a man I don't cook. In fact, I look forward to that husband of mine really
Who also
enjoying-
loves dogs.
He's going to have to tolerate
He's
the
going to
dogs.
have to tolerate
I'm going to
dogs.
love him more.
He's going to have to tolerate your fiery attitude as well.
I'm a little spicy.
Yeah, he's a special man. I'm praying for you, dog.
I gotta have a guy. He's gotta be a believer.
Yeah,
That's the number
absolutely.
one. But he's going to have flaws, and I get that.
Yeah. So who are you? Let's go back. I don't want to.
Who am I? I'm a teacher, a poet, a dancer. I do 11 genres of dance in the city of Detroit.
Okay.
Bop, chop, Latin hustle, Chicago step, ballroom, of course.
Where'd you go to college?
Greystone. Central Michigan. I got my teaching certificate from Eastern Michigan.
EMU.
I have
Go Eagles.
I wasn't really fond, but they were known to be the best for teaching. I don't know that I concur with that.
Eastern. They used to be the Hurons before the woke culture.
Yeah.
Shout out to EMU Eagles.
But then
I'm an EMU Eagle dropout.
But then my master's, Spring Arbor, and I actually really enjoyed my trek there because
Where's Spring Arbor?
it's just 20, 30 minutes. It's adjacent to Jackson.
Okay.
Which where I was from. I was born in Vancouver, actually, British Columbia.
Oh, for real? Connect? Did I know that?
I don't know.
What took y'all to Jackson, to Kellogg Country?
That's kind of a long story. My mother and father at the time, and then when he left and they divorced, and I never saw him again. I maybe spoke to him once or twice a year, but he was known as a tennis legend in Jackson. So people always expect me to be Serena when they hear my because he's pushed out all these goats and tennis in the Jackson area. Yeah.
And you was
Yeah, but poetry, I'm a spoken word artist. I've done that for about 15 years. I've written a few books. I wrote a children's book, a vocabulary book. So yeah, I love to write. I love to read. And I think teaching is really my calling. And even though I'm not in the classroom traditionally now, and by the way, we probably won't get into it today. Maybe if you have me back, we'll get into it. Unless you
because I want to talk about the scalping and the hair and the wigs for sure. Today.
Yeah. That's
the
a
other ones we may
conversation.
hit. We got to have that, but
Yeah.
I definitely wanted people to get an understanding of who you were and your background, and because you have so much to offer the world for sure. But I want to ask you a question: is there a difference between prayer and manifestation, and what is it?
Wow, that's a really good question. They have similarities. I think that what's happened in society, and it's those little foxes that spoil the vine, is that in the guise of manifesting being this great, wonderful thing, what's happened is it's replacing, the subtlety is that it's replacing God and Jesus.
Right.
Jesus? What's the Wi-Fi passcode?
All right, so we had a really interesting conversation about wigs and scalping, right?
Yeah.
So I researched, I'm on the phone with you, and I'm like typing in. I look up what Indians, when they were scalping, the spiritual meaning behind it was like they're trying to, that when they scalp somebody, it helps them to become a warrior, but also placate spirits of the dead.
Right.
So by scalping, taking somebody else's hair off, really, and then sometimes they would wear the hair. It's like, I'm placating these spirits of the dead. So it's almost like some voodoo witchcraft stuff attached to wearing somebody else's hair. There's all these women out here wearing these wigs, which disgust me. I can't stand the wigs. I mean, if you bald headed or whatever going on, or you got some alopecia or something, I mean, maybe that's a different story. But like women purposely wearing wigs, I think it's disgusting.
And the thing is, we were talking about it.
How men are going after the transgender body. How women are getting the transgender body. Women are doing the same things to themselves that a man is doing if he's trying to become a woman. He's putting on a wig, he's getting the implants, he's getting the booty, and it's just like.
And so when we years ago, it was a popular conversation with men as far as sagging their pants, and
Right.
and the schooling was, the sagging of the pants originated from prison. It was a signal to let down for the whatever.
Yeah.
So, what's happened now with women is that all this, the wigs and the face, getting the face beat, so to speak, and all this. And I don't mean this as with an air of judgment. It's all in love, but it's almost like we need this re-education, to be enlightened to information regarding where this comes from. I mean, these women are looking like Halloween in July, and they're being bamboozled into subscribing. They're subscribing to it as beautiful and as it's attractive, and it's like women are running around in costumes basically, and
what's that wig doing to the hair and the pineal gland and the scalp? And
that's what we were talking about. The other day. So your pineal gland or your pineal gland, tomato, is
only I have a pineal gland.
And
okay,
so,
you have everyone else has I have a pineal gland. Okay.
So when you're doing that, it's impeding. So there's two things that happens. Well, there's actually three things that happen with these wigs. First of all, this whole I think a certain group of people are being targeted as far as not understanding their own beauty. Here we have the strongest, most beautiful hair, the hair that Jesus is described as having, wool hair, that by the way is made in a wiry sort of way so that it's receiving information from the sun. So when you're taking, and so we're giving and through the pineal gland, you're receiving information through the sun, all this sunscreen, and don't get out in the sun. We've been lied to. You need get out in the sun as much as you can.
Man, get that vitamin D.
I'm not saying go, fry yourself and burn, but
right.
you get sun in a reasonable way as much as you really can. I mean, that most people are 70-80% plus people are deficient in vitamin D.
Facts.
But just the energy, we all, for people that know about grounding and being out in nature, but the energy that you're receiving from the sun and trees around you, and specifically the sun, your hair is designed, and specifically black people's hair is designed in such a way to receive that information.
Mm-hmm.
So like when Chris Rock did that whole very enlightening documentary entitled Good Hair, I always thought, good, which was should have went way bigger than it even did, and people need to come back.
He was dropping gems in that.
He absolutely was, and
1,000%.
Come back to that conversation because good hair is whatever hair is growing out of your scalp. We've been really, I want to see a news anchor with an afro. It's just the most beautiful thing. So we've been really.
What if your hair only grows on the sides like mine? I've got a side fro, and if I perm it, I can comb it over the top. It'd be fly. But I got a side. I got all sides.
I think that it's unfortunate that the most beautiful women in the world, and let me just be clear, it's not just black. It's these white hoes, the Kardashians, were one of the first to really put wigs on the market, and they know better than Steve Harvey with his
Steve Harvey with his power top,
with the man unit, as Cat Williams would say,
right?
The man unit, they were on programs promoting hair products or giving information about what hair products they use to keep their hair long. And they're wearing wigs. They're wearing real human hair wigs. So this is not just limited to black women as far as the stereotype. But what's happening is so there's three things: the pineal gland, the fact that you're keeping your also we could talk about the intimacy. Eyes and hair and all that. When you're going to be intimate with someone, it's impeding full intimacy. The eyelashes and all that.
Like I'm trying to reach through this helmet to get to your scalp.
Yeah, and so the other thing that's happening that I happened to hear of recently, and I've been saying this for quite a few years, is the toxins and all the chemicals that are now seeping down in that are causing cancer and migraines and fibromyalgia and all these other, issues that are coming from, and you're not, and then what happens is, let's say you didn't have a problem with your skin. Now you're exacerbating or creating an issue. So you're exacerbating an existing issue you may have with your hair, and then you're creating an issue that may not have even existed through your hair is not breathing. You're not getting people used to comb their hair with the natural bristle brush. Your scalp needs stimulation. Yeah. So if you're just covering it, you're keeping that energy from the sun. You're keeping that hair from picking up energy from the sun, lowering your vibration. Now you're keeping.
What about Arab women who wear the hijab all the time? Wear the hookup. They not receiving anything. It's always covered.
You know what? I agree. Absolutely. They're not maybe getting the chemicals as much.
True.
But for sure, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they definitely got that covered. I want to talk about something that you brought up earlier in reference to love and respect, and then we're going to get close to wrapping this thing up.
You said something about the scalping that I think is when you're think of Samson and Goliath in the biblically. Where did he have his power from? His
Samson
hair.
had his power in his hair.
He had his
Samson
power
and Delilah,
in his hair. And so when you're talking about there's a level of what do people do when they're doing witchcraft and voodoo? They take little pieces of hair. So when there's an exorbitant amount of energy that comes from hair. So when you're going to attach real human hair and a woman says, I feel like a new bee, yet you are a new bee. You might be 5 new bees. And their energy, that energy is now...
Facts.
And now you've attached that energy to you. I don't know about you, but I don't once in a blue moon, I'll wear it just because my hair is like down to my tail, but if I put it up in a ponytail, you use the length. So once in a very blue moon, I'll do a ponytail, but if you have to do it, I would recommend using a high quality synthetic. You do not want to be attaching real human hair to your energy.
Man, that's...
It just like...
We definitely going to make some shorts out of
this. Think of it like
this.
this. When you're sleeping with someone, you're taking on all of their stuff. The same thing when you're attaching it here. Now that energy is now...
What if you wear a condom?
It does.
Are you still getting the energy?
You know what? A condom impedes some of that. That's true. But in other words, it's even more intense if you're... exchanging fluids and all that, or the man.
If you hitting raw,
yeah.
If you hitting raw,
but
if I'm hitting a chick with a condom on, am I subject to any of the stuff that's going on with her? Am I protected myself?
You are, because biblically, spiritually, the two shall become one. And what happens is why do you think people who don't even like each other keep messing around, and they think, oh, it's just because you've created
I've had so many of them.
An ungodly soul ties. Here's the thing: this is how the enemy works. He takes something beautiful like our music. He takes something beautiful like the beautiful, especially black women, in a beautiful body, and he takes and tries to distort that.
Yeah.
And so what's happened is we're meant to have soul ties. We just don't want to have ungodly soul ties.
Facts.
Think of this. Two people are connected. Here I am. Here's the man. Here's the woman. Sex does this.
And it's more like this. It's like this.
Right. But okay, forget all that, jokester.
It's like that.
It's super glue. Imagine super glue, and you got it there really, tight. And then when you go to rip that off, what happens? There's a little piece over here.
Yeah.
A little piece over here.
And both parties is bleeding.
Both parties are bleeding. And see, God intended, his intention was just that, only we've misused it. Mm-hmm. We're not intended to have that type of deep soul tie. We're supposed to have that with one. And then the other thing that happens when you do that is now you're creating a desire and a taste. You might miss your soulmate because they're not freaked out in the bit, because now you got all these expectations because you've had too many
experiences,
too many freak offs.
Then you get with somebody who loves to be peed on. You get with somebody who loves the sound of pee, and then you don't know how, like, dang, I don't know if I can measure.
Don't judge me, Charlie. Don't judge me, Charlie. I'm feeling a little judged. Oh,
man, it is what it is.
I can't help it. I have an affinity for a strong urine stream.
You get up. There's an episode in Sopranos where it's kind of weird because it was a dude gangster. They ended up unaliving him because he was on the other side, and he was trying to hide it. But he had this affinity of putting his ear next to a urinal to hear another man drop.
Are you kidding me?
His name was in Sopranos. The dude's name was Spatafori, and they ended up unaliving him because it was like, my man. He's putting his ear. They saw him on
the sound of a good stream.
They saw him at a construction site. A security guard went into a porta potty, and they watched the gangster walk out of his office and put his ear next to the porta potty and listen to dog pee, and they unalived him, which they should have. They did the right thing.
Oh no!
They got rid of it.
Wow.
I was crying.
Charlie, that's kind of harsh.
It is. We're going to keep it in there. So you didn't tell everybody about your journey on. You told us bits and pieces, because there's people out there that's probably still attracted to toxic relationships. Mm-hmm. They're still attracting those type of people. Like, I dealt with that for years. I had soul ties with the wrong people. I was toxic relationship after toxic relationship. But what are the specific things you did in your journey to be where you are now, to be healed and ready to, like, really love and receive the person that God has for you? What did it really take? Was it really a rock bottom? And what was it? Or what was it more than just say, and don't say like it was therapy in the word, like everybody can say that.
I've never even been to therapy. I actually went to seek therapy one time, and this woman in the town I live in was well known, and people I know who aren't, didn't even really have problems, but maybe had a little bump in the road and went during a crisis or something, to see people who I respected and trusted. And so this woman came highly recommended, and I don't know if I just unintentionally fooled her or if it was real, but she just said, "You're a beautiful success story." She told me I didn't need counseling. You know, this is after a brother I had heard from when my father passed. He was the one that had done something, you know, when I was like 3 or 4 years old, and I hadn't seen him, you know, one time when I was maybe 10 or 12, somewhere in there. I saw him once. So all these years, here I am, you know, almost 50 years old, and and I ended up he's homeless. He's homeless now, and I still had this level of grace and forgiveness, you know, because I felt like he was likely a victim.
Right.
And so I ended up speaking to him. He borrowed a phone and somehow got my number, you know, ended up going through different channels and got my number, and I talked to him, and it just set something off in me where I started to really kind of have anxiety and a few things like that. So I thought maybe I need to, you know, get counseling. And when I went to this woman, she just told me that I
didn't need it.
She didn't feel that I needed it. And I was kind of glad for that. I don't know that she was right, but I feel as, you know, God is the number one. Not to say that counseling isn't great, but I think if you're not going to, it's almost like your nutrition or anything that you do. There's certain vehicles. Faith without works is dead. So you're going to do the things in the natural that you can do, but then God is doing all the stuff you can't do. And there's a lot we can't do. And so with that said, to answer your inquiry, I did hit rock bottom. I had to hit rock bottom. And I ended up dealing with someone who really, it was just absolutely horrific. And I had, previous to this relationship, which was off and on, you know, maybe 2 years, and I really, really loved this person, but previous to that, I was already had the idea where God was kind of telling me personally, and I don't go tell my friends, I'm celibate, you need to do what I'm doing. Right. Hell, you know, Jesus meets us where we're at. Our path is our path.
Facts.
And I knew that God was because he'll speak to you personally, you know. And so he was nudging at me, knocking, you know, speaking to me personally regarding celibacy for me. And so I was already, you know, I wasn't hoeing, but I thought if I loved someone, I gave that excuse, like if I'm in love, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm in love, my love language, one of them is physical touch. So, you know, I kind of made that excuse, I guess you could say, in my mind. But then when I hit rock bottom, I just thought it was just, God just did something. I asked him, I said, I cannot do this without you. Not even as far as the celibacy, but just getting over the soul tie, he didn't just snap his, you know, people go through different experiences where sometimes he'll bring you around the mountain and sometimes he'll just deliver you immediately. I didn't get immediate deliverance. It was I did as far as I decided the celibacy thing. But
so what does that mean? Like in the process, you was like twiddling out a little bit, or
no. So I was celibate, and I was good with that, but I still had the pain of the soul tie, the deep, deep, everyday, horrific, you know, just the anxiety and the hurt and I was in a black hole, and I just thought, you know, I really need healing. And I just went to my father. You said, you know, you bind up our wounds and you heal our wounds. You know, many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivereth them out of them all. All things work together for good for those who believe and are called.
So you showered yourself in the word.
I just kept, because what we do is we think we bother to get dressed and be, you know, we take a shower, we brush our teeth, we do things to arm ourselves to go out in the world, but we don't put on our spiritual armor.
Yeah, man.
And the way that things, see what happens when you get in the word, then what happens is when things come up, that word arrives right at the right time.
Facts.
If I see someone I was in Myrtle Beach, I saw a guy on the road before we're getting ready to go back in this 15-hour truck, and suddenly my spirit knew I had to stop and pray on that man. But I knew all the right things to say, and more importantly, the right scriptures to iterate, because I had them in me. With what's in the heart, you know, comes out.
Facts.
So if you're honing your heart and you're putting the good in, you know, what you focus on increases, what you starve dies. So I'm constantly getting the word, and I'm believing, I'm using my faith muscle, and I'm growing my faith muscle, and I'm realizing that faith is the evidence of the evidence of things unseen, the substance of things hoped for. So I'm just constantly getting the word and about, you know, healing,
Amen.
looking up specific scriptures on healing, and something really miraculously, I didn't even tell you this, something really amazing and miraculous happened. When I look into my eyes, and this happens maybe once a week now since then, and this has happened for about 6 months, maybe even a year, maybe the first time a year, and it just progressively has gotten even stronger. I look at myself in the mirror, and I literally see the eyes, and this is like, I don't want to get too emotional, but I see my eyes looking exactly, I mean, down to the detail, the same spark and the same full little beans. These pictures that I see when I was like 2 and 1, and and this me kind of I'm like a 1 and 2 year old, and I got my shoulder and I'm posing, and I have this spark in my eye, and my eyes are just really crystal clear and blue. And I look in the mirror now, and I see that same. I know this sounds so corny and cliche, but I see this same, because it sounds so like huggatry-ish and weirdy, but I had this like amazing, it was a spiritual, only something God could do, that he's returning me to him, and returning me to that JoJo that was hurt, you know,
before trauma.
Before all the trauma.
That's what I've been
little
surrounding
1 and 2,
myself.
and it's crazy, you know, that you say that, because I just thought as a little girl, but the real trauma came at like 3 and 4, and then it expounded itself and compounded itself over. I mean, I spent so many years of my childhood feeling ashamed, dirty, before I ever kissed someone, you know, feeling, and just poverty and abuse, sexual abuse and emotional abuse and abandonment, all these things. I just had these overwhelming feelings of, but I remember when I was 12 years old, I stood in the street, I can still remember this, and I had this feeling, even though the majority of my feelings were all very downtrodden and disparaging feelings, but I remember around 12 years old, I stood in the street, and I can still remember, like, I'm supposed to do something really big. I'm going to do something really, I'm here for a reason. Even at 12, I had that feeling. And God reminded me of that during this healing process. So 2 things happen. I look in the mirror now, and I go, I see these eyes, and they look just like that little girl.
So what I heard you say in reference to your healing is that you showered yourself in the word, and that you've been allowing yourself to mentally go back to what it was like before trauma.
God did that, though. I didn't even consciously go back mentally.
God nudged you to do it, but you've been allowing it to happen through your thoughts.
Absolutely. And the beautiful part is that it's almost like when you have a really crappy job, and people have a job, and it's just kind of bad, or even a relationship that's kind of bad, or whatever situation it is, it's kind of bad, and you just get a little complacent because it's doable. You don't like it, you complain intermittently, but it's kind of bad. When it's really bad, the beauty of that is, see, we grow in the valleys. We don't grow on the mountaintop. We grow in the valleys. So the beauty of that is when it's really, really bad, now it comes change. We only change when we're uncomfortable. We only listen, if I could eat frosted Hinkley donuts every day and not be a complete tub, you know, and feel and look like crap, I would be slinging the donuts like Frisbees, right? It's would they ever quit smoking if it didn't cost them money and cost them their health?
Facts.
We change from discomfort, right?
Facts.
And so the beauty in the discomfort, here's the beautiful part, is that God will come and lift you out of that. Not only will he do it for you, because what? The battle is his and the victory is ours. His yoke is easy, his burden is light. We aren't meant to even take on the burden. Right. So we do it because
the victory's already won.
That's right. Faith without works is dead, but we just have to do the little parts that we can do. And then sometimes we're even meant to be still. That's why it says be still and know that I am God. Sometimes we're just supposed to do nothing. My dogs, they fight. You know what I used to do? they'd carry my two little girls. They're like 5 pounds. They'd draw blood. I would be flipping out. I'd grab it because they might bite me because they're in like primal mode at the moment. One's hanging in the air. I'm wrapping up a blanket so I don't get bit. I'm crying. I'm like freaking out, screaming at them, claiming the blood of Jesus, all this. Do you know what I started doing?
What?
Walking away. And guess what? As soon as I just walk away, walk downstairs, I'm done. All right, y'all, go ahead, fight. Guess what?
They just stopped.
They just stopped. It was a life lesson to me. My dogs, my little corny, goofy, crazy dogs, gave me a life lesson. Sometimes sometimes God just means us to be still, and that's where discernment comes in. Sometimes we're not always meant to do everything or take action, but we got to keep ourselves alert and open to the idea of action and do some of those works. And the things that we can't do,
we just leave
God will come in and do them for us. And so that's really what I started doing. Even when I didn't feel it and didn't feel like praying, I would just keep saying, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you that you're helping me. And this is the other thing I would like anybody in your audience to know is that when you're going through things that seem like, or an addiction or something that, is really arduous for you to, something really difficult, you don't have to feel the feeling, just like forgiveness. You don't have to feel it. You don't have to feel like praying to just still say, God, you might be in a horrible depression.
Right.
And when you're doing the bad thing or the thing that you're trying to stop that's hindering your life or causing destruction for you, even though it might give you momentary pleasure, but it's ultimately not good for you, it's impeding your life, you can still reach out to God. You don't have to be cleaned up. He knows you're doing it anyway. If you're watching porn, you're smoking, you're cussing, whatever you're doing that is something you're trying to quit or that's hurting your life or hindering you in any kind of way, and you feel guilt about it, churches they're a hospital for the sick.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be able to go to God in any type of state. And so I used to think like subconsciously maybe even I got to be cleaned up to go to God. You don't have to be cleaned up. God knows it anyway. Man looks on the outer appearance. God looks on the heart. He knows our heart.
Proverbs says that when a righteous man falls 7 times. Here, listen to this verse. Yeah. The Bible says that Proverbs says that a righteous man falls 7 times and rises again.
That's right.
So that righteous man's going to fall. But since we already have the victory, even when you fall, get back up and you keep moving. Yeah. Same thing for me in reference to my healing journey. It was a rock bottom because the Bible says that he sent his word and healed them. Yep. The more I lean, like you see around here, it's just scriptures everywhere.
I do.
And the more that I ingest these scriptures and I go to them for specific things, my soul is healed.
Listen, I'm trying to stop cussing. I tend to use expletives. I'm a fiery individual. I'm not proud of that. It's part of me. I'm working on it. I'm a work in progress.
Facts. Facts.
And
there's no perfection in Christianity because the only person that's perfect is Jesus. But on your healing journey is the same, and I can relate to that before we close because I want you to let everybody know where they can find you.
Okay.
Also, leaning on the word, but the Holy Spirit also, through my daughter called me and said that she had a really great therapy session. She said, Dad, because I did 3 years of therapy. A lot of it was helpful. Some of it I pitched.
Wow.
But
I'm impressed by that. You're doing the work.
I did the work.
You don't want to connect with other people who
do the
romantically who are not going to do the work.
Do the self-work. So she said, Dad, I was in therapy and my therapist had me in tears because she started telling me to journal what life was like before trauma when you were young. Go back and tap into so I started doing that and I got, I can be transparent. I got tears flowing and I'm remembering all these moments. And then that's why now I've been surrounding myself with things that remind me before I had cancer when I was 15.
Yeah.
Right. God healed me. Yeah. But like these movie posters, then I bought an old car. And I got all of these things that I've been grabbing that remind me. And same thing with the eye. I look at how I'm behaving, running stuff, and I'm like, it's like, dang, before the trauma. So all of those things have been helping to heal my soul. So that's what we give into the audience, these tools.
It's funny because I'm doing all the things that, like, I couldn't go roller skating. My mother didn't have the $5 to give me. I couldn't do the dancing or all of the things that I absolutely love.
Wow.
Now
you doing
and that I wanted to do as a kid, I'm doing every single one of them now.
What's the first chapter in the Bible?
King James?
No, sir. It's Genesis.
Okay, I've never read a Bible in my life.
I could tell. Yeah. So now I got to get you, Starsky.
Okay.
You look like if I whisper your name at the gun range, they'll change all the targets to Mexican people.
So we wrapping up the healing. So I've been surrounding myself with things that remind me of what it was like before trauma, and that's been a part of my healing. So those are the pieces that we giving y'all. You know what I'm saying? The word, God said he sent his word and healed, and we've been showering ourselves with the word. We've been reminding ourselves of what it was
yourself,
like.
It's armor. It's spiritual armor.
It's spiritual armor. Reminding yourself of what it was like before trauma. And for some people, it may work to just be a part of a community where you could be accountable for certain things. You know what I'm saying? Putting up certain guardrails, and staying away from certain environments, certain people until you healed. Like I did with my flip phone. Like you have
to do the work. You got to be.
I had a major addiction to pornography, man. So I got the flip phone, and it just keeps me. Also, too, I'm not on social media like that. My daughter runs my page, so I don't get a chance to look at nobody else's life. You know what I'm saying?
Let me reiterate for people who maybe aren't making money on, don't have a huge following, it may be really worth it to just
stay away from it for a season,
or just eradicate your former ones and create new pages, because it then amends it changes the algorithm, and so you're no longer going to see that. You know why I see things about God, I see comedy, I see nutrition, I see enlightenment stuff about just whatever. It's all of the things that I'm in psychology,
that's what you've been searching.
Those are the things that I'm looking at. Those are the things that I search, and those are the things that I click on.
Right.
So whatever you're clicking on, you're bringing into your, what you focus on increases, what you starve does. So you got to starve out the bad and then start adding in the good.
There it is. Where can they find you?
Oh, yeah. They can find me Facebook.
What's your name on there?
YouTube, Instagram, across the board. It's JoJo Perkin. I believe on YouTube. I'm going to kind of get back to YouTube. It's JoJo the Teacher / JoJo Perkin on Instagram. JoJo Perkin on Facebook. If you put in JoJo Perkin, usually you can get to it, or JoJo the Teacher on a couple of them. Yeah.
That's where we find you. This was fun.
Yeah,
you got to come back and do this again.
Thank you.
He was all right.
I appreciated it. I'm not into the caramel nugget striking blue eyes thing, but other than that, you're
that's why that's why we safe. I'm not into a chick who got 30 dogs at the crib. You know what I'm saying? And let them kiss her in her mouth and all that.
My baby hairs.
Oh my God, and baby hairs, and you feisty. Your dude gonna have to be.
I'm a little spicy.
You're a little spicy. You talk a lot too. You know what I'm saying? You talk like 98% of this podcast, but it was good juice. People need it. But I was just, when you run the tape back, I'm going to be over here like.
I'm a talker.
But that was good. But you got some good information, though. You know what I'm saying? And people needed it. And we're going to shoot some sketches, too.
Yeah.
We got some funny ideas with comedy sketches.
We have a long list of sketches to do.
It's going to do it. You got anything else in closing that's short, that's not going to be long?
God is love, and God loves you, and he's the answer.
There it is. Pastor JoJo.
I'm on the path. I've not arrived. Just always on the path.
You ain't
I'm
the only
work
one.
in progress.
All right, it was good. I love y'all because I love myself.
Peace and love.